Computer organization and architecture. So architecture basically defines the logical structure of the computer system and central processing unit. CPUs, which is popularly referred as the brain of the computer, responsible for the processing the data inside the computer system. And the main memory unit, the stores and retrieves data and instructions inputs. And CPU consists of registers, arithmetic unit, logic units, control units. The main operations of CPU includes four phases: fetching, decoding, executing, and storing. Four phases processes is known as CPU cycle. Central processing unit consists of the following subsystems: arithmetic unit, logic unit, control unit. CPU makes use of following memory subsystems carrying main memory unit, cache memory, and registers. Decode, execute, store, and fetch. This is the CPU cycle. Firstly decode, thereafter execute, then store and fetch. Arithmetic unit part of the CPU. Opcode, operands and the format code. Opcode specifies the operation to be performed. Operands specifies the data. Format code suggests the format of the operands such as fixed point or floating point. Output is stored in a storage register. Logic unit is a part of CPU. Logical operations include greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, shift left, shift right. LU makes the use of various logic gates such as AND, OR, NOR, etc. Control unit, it controls the flow of the data and information. The program computer registers the program counter register for retrieving the next instruction that is to be executed. The status register for handling conditions such as overflow of data. Main memory unit, main memory is referred to be internal memory or primary memory, random access memory. It is also known as RAM. The files and instructions are normally stored in the different location known as secondary storage and are copied from there to the RAM before execution. This technique is referred as swapping, holding intermediate data transferred between CPU and input-output devices. The main memory responsible for the holding intermediate data transferred between CPU and input-output devices. Cache memory, input-output devices को peripheral devices भी बोलते हैं. Cache memory is a small, fast and expensive memory to stores the copies of data that needs to be accessed frequently. Placed between CPU and main memory. Placed between CPU and the main memory, the cache memory. Transfer of data between the processor and the cache memory is bidirectional. Availability of data in the cache is known as cache hit. The capacity of cache memory is measured on the basis of cache hit. Primary cache located inside the CPU. Secondary cache positioned on the motherboard of the CPU. Registers is high speed memory. Program counter PC. Registers, they include among others processors that have hold different types of the information. Program counter PC keep track of next instruction to be executed. Instruction register hold instruction to be decoded by control unit. Memory address register MAR hold the address of the next location in the memory to be accessed. Memory buffer register storing data received from or sent to CPU. Memory data register storing operands and data. Accumulator ACC storing the results produced by arithmetic and logic units. So registers में PCIR program counter, instruction register, memory address register, memory buffer register, memory data register, and accumulator. Internal communications, the communicate with the memory either directly or through the cache memory. CPU communicate with memory either directly or cache memory. The communication between CPU and input-output devices is usually implemented with the help of interfaces. Major category divided into two major categories: processor to memory communication, processor to input-output devices communication. Processor to memory communication: memory address register and memory buffer register. Address bus वन डायरेक्शनल होता है, यूनिडायरेक्शनल, एंड डाटा बस इज बाई डायरेक्शनल होता है. MER is used by the processor to keep track of memory location whether it needs to perform the reading or writing operation. Memory data register is used by processor to store the data that needs to be transferred from input-output memory of the computer system. Processor to store the data that needs to be transferred. Memory data register. MER is used by the processor to keep track of memory location where it needs to perform the reading or writing operation. Memory data register is used by processor to store the data that needs to be transferred from the memory of the computer system. The control bus is read control signals. The control bus is used to carry commands issued by processor, and status signals are generated by the various devices. In response to these commands, memory loads the data into the MDR register. Data is transferred to the processor. Address bus is unidirectional while control bus is bidirectional. Write signal is unidirectional. Processor issues the write control signal to the memory using the control bus. Memory stores the data loaded in the MDR register at the desired memory location. Processor to in input-output devices communication. The communication between input-output devices and processor of computer system is implemented using an interface unit. Device controller is used to manage the working of various peripheral devices. The interface unit is responsible for controlling the input and output operations between the processor and input-output devices. Processor interface unit, device controller, data register, status register, flag bit, data bus, control bus. Processor and interface unit have bidirectional device address bus, data bus, control bus, and interface unit and device controller have bidirectional data bus and device control. The data to be transferred in place on the data bus by the input devices which transferred single byte of data at a time. Input device then issues the data valid signals through the device control bus to the data register, indicating that the data is available on the data bus. When the data register of the interface unit accepts the data, it issues a data accepted signal through the device control bus as an acknowledgement to the input device. Machine cycle during which machine language instruction is executed by processor of the computer system is known as machine cycle. Program consists of 10 machine language instructions. 10 separate machine cycles would be executed for running the program: fetching, decoding, executing, and storing. Fetches the instruction from main memory. Decodes the instruction using control units. Execute the instructions using ALU. Stores the results of the instructions. Instruction cycle, execution cycle. Instruction cycle includes the first two phases: fetching and decoding. Decoding Decoding of an instruction is also known as interpreting. Execution cycle. Execution cycle includes last two phases: executing and storing. In this phases, executing. In this phase, the decoded instruction is executed by ALU of the CPU. Bus The serial bus or parallel bus. Serial bus, only one bit of data is transferred. In parallel bus, several bits of data can be transferred. Data bus, address bus. bus memory to processor and processor to input output subsystem. Control bus, also their data bus. Modern computer systems use 32-bit data buses for data transfer. Data bus is generally bidirectional in nature. Main memory to processor. Data bus. Address bus. Address bus is also known as memory bus. Can also be serial or parallel bus. It is unidirectional. An address bus may also be bidirectional. Transfer the memory location from processor to main memory. Instruction set. Complex instruction set. Reduced instruction sets. Complex instruction set. Number of instructions in this set varies from 100 to 250. Memory based instruction. Variable length instruction. A program written in CISC complex instruction set computer requires less memory space. CISC, CISS, CISC makes the job of a compiler easier by facilitating the implementation of high-level language construct. Reduced instruction set RISC 0 to 100 instruction ranging from 0 to 100 comprises of only those instructions that are frequently used by processor for execution of a program. Register based. This set are mostly register based. Speed of RISC processors is measured in MIPS, millions of instructions per second. RISC processors are always preferred over the CISC processors because of their compact size and small instruction set. RISC speed is greater than CISC. RISC processor execute instruction in a single clock cycle, while CISC processors require multiple clock cycles for the execution of an instruction. Chapter summary. Computer organizer refers to the study of different functional components of the computer system and the manner in which these components interact with each other. CPU is referred as brain of the memory. AU is CPU that performs arithmetic operation on the data. LU is CPU that perform logical operation on the data. CU is CPU that controls the flow of data and information. Operand, it is data on which operation to be performed. Cache memory, copies of the data that needs to be accessed frequently from the main memory. Primary cache, L1 cache or internal cache located inside the CPU. Secondary cache, L2 cache or external cache is located in motherboard of the computer. PC, keep track of next instruction to be executed. IR, holds instruction to be decoded by control unit. MER, hold the address of the next location in the memory to be accessed. MBR, store data received from or sent to CPU. MDR, used to store operands and data. Accumulator, store the results produced by arithmetic and logic unit. Machine cycle, machine language instruction is executed by processor of the computer system. Data bus, transfer data among the different internal components. Address bus, address transfer the memory addresses for read and write memory operations. Control bus manages the transfer of data and addresses among various components by transferring appropriate control signals. Complex instruction set, very complex and large number of instructions, 100 से 250. Reduced instruction set, very few instructions ranging from 0 से 100. ALU, brain of the computer. ALU unit responsible for arithmetic operation. Computers programmers register keep the track of next instruction executed. RAM, called main memory of the computer. Access time of registers memory is faster as compared to main memory. The group of wires used to connect the component of CPU transfer data is called a data bus. Group of instruction that a processor can execute is called instruction. Address bus is used to transfer the data from the memory. Instruction set can be classified as fetch and decode. Direct communication between processor and memory of computer system is implemented with the help of two registers, MAR and MDR. The flag bit of status register is 1 when the register holds the data. Computer which makes use of reduced instruction set is called RISC. RISC processors is measured in MIPS. Definition of basic attributes of hardware component and their interconnections in order to achieve certain specific goals in terms of functions and performance is known as computer architecture. The design and physical arrangement of various hardware components to work in a tandem in an orderly manner so as to achieve the goals specified in the architecture is known as computer organization. What does CPU stand for? Central Processing Unit. Which one of the following is not internal component of CPU? Interface unit. What is the main function of CPU in a computer system? Processing the data. Which of the following memory locations are first referred by the CPU while searching for data? Cache memory. Cache memory is used to transfer data between main memory and processor. Which one of the following cache memory is also known as internal cache? L1 cache. Which of the following hardware component is normally used to accommodate secondary cache? Motherboard. Which one of the following statement is not true about L1 cache? L1 cache is usually slower than L2 cache. Means it is wrong. L1 what is right? L1 cache is type of cache memory. L1 cache stores the data from the main memory. L1 cache is an expensive type of memory. Which of the following register is not a CPU register? Memory control register is not a CPU register, while MBR, MDR, and IR are the CPU register. Which of the purpose of memory address register? Store the address of the next location in the main memory. Which one of the following register is used to indicate whether the data register holds the data to be transferred or not? MDR. Which of the following two registers are used by CPU to transfer the data between processor and memory? MAR, MDR. Which of the following sequence of the operations represents the machine cycle? Fetch, decode, execute, store. FDES. FDI. So FDES. Decoding phase of the instruction cycle is known as breaking. Which of the following is not a type of bus used in computer system? Information bus. Which of the following is a characteristic of CISC processor? Large number of addressing modes, variable length instruction format, number of instructions varying between 100 to 250. What is the fixed length of the instruction format used in RISC processors? 32 bits. Memory and storage system. Data are held temporarily in referred as the primary memory. Data are stored permanently for the future use is referred as the secondary memory. Primary memory is generally known as memory and the secondary memory is known as storage. Data and instruction stored in a primary memory can be directly accessed by the CPU. Data and addresses bus. Using the data and addresses buses, information stored in secondary memory is not directly accessible to CPU. Third type of storage location known as internal process memory, placed either inside the CPU or near the CPU, connected through a special fast bus. Memory secondary memory, primary memory, internal process memory, which is cache and register. Primary memory, ROM. ROM is non-volatile. RAM is volatile. Data stored in RAM is also are lost when the power is switched off, and therefore it is known as volatile. ROM stay permanently even after the power is switched off, and therefore ROM is non-volatile memory because ROM is permanent. Internal process memory usually includes cache memory and register, both of which store data temporarily and accessible directly by the CPU. We can think of memory as a bunch of bytes and cells into which we can place data. Cell known as data item is assigned a unique number known as address. Data 1 byte 2 to the power n stores compiler. Byte is defined as the smallest addressable unit of memory. Most computers use groups of bytes, usually 2 or 4, known as words and represents information. 1 kilobyte is 1024 bytes. 1 megabyte is 1048 bytes. 1 GB equal to 107374 1824 bytes. 1 TB 1099 5116 2776 bytes. Random access memory is volatile memory. Loses all its data when power is switched off. Allows the data to be accessed in any order. RAM is made up of different ICs, integrated chips. RAM is also known as read-write memory because it can perform both the read as well as write operation. Speed of RAM is faster than the other memory devices such as hard disk, floppy disk. Storage capacity of RAM is usually less than the secondary devices. RAM of two types, SRAM and DRAM. SRAM as SRAM, base RAM, PBase RAM, ABPB. DRAM, SDRAM, RDRAM, EDROM, EDO-DRAM, FPM DRAM, SR, EDO, FPM, SR, EDO, FPM. Static RAM, static SRAM. Static RAM is RAM. Uses a number of transistors to store a single byte of digital information. Transistors and asynchronous RAM perform its operation without the use of system clock. Three signals for working, namely chip select, write enable, and output enable. The performing read or write, chip select, write enable, performing read and write operation. CS chip selection signal equals 1, then memory is disabled and operations such as reading writing in a SRAM cannot be performed. CS equal to 1, it means memory is disabled the operation, that means reading and writing in SRAM not performed. Burst SRAM association with the system clock. Bus RAM is most commonly used with the high speed application because the read and write cycles are synchronized with the clock cycle of the processor. Pipeline bus RAM makes use of pipeline technology. Large amount of data is broken up in the form of direct pockets containing data. These pockets are arranged in sequential manner in the pipeline and are sent to memory simultaneously. Dynamic RAM, transistor and capacitor. Dynamic RAM, DRAM needs the continuous refreshed with power supply because capacitor and has tendency to get discharged. DRAM retains the data for a very short span of time even after the power supply is switched off. Synchronous DRAM, SDRAM, associated with the clock cycle of the processor bus. It is used with the processor for storing the data in continuous manner. RDRAM, Standard data out RAM, fast phase mode RAM, read only memory. ROM is memory that stores the data permanently. Data can be easily read from this type of memory but cannot be changed. Calculators, laser printers, etc. Not allow the random access of data, rather it allows the sequential access of data, less expensive as compared to RAM and other storage devices. Programmable RAM, PROM, erasable PROM, electrically erasable PROM, and flash ROM. Programmable ROM, write operation of the data can be performed only once. Once a program is written on the PROM, it can be erased or destroyed. Method of writing data on the chip is known as burning the PROM. Erasable PROM, erased or destroyed using ultraviolet light. It can be reprogrammed. Contains the floating gate transistors which have capacity to hold the electric charge even when the power of computer system is switched off. Electrically erasable PROM, data can be erased or destroyed by the exposing it to an electric charge. Data can be written or erased only one byte at a time, because of which it works very slowly. Flash ROM, fast read, slow write, stores the information using floating gate transistor used in memory cards of mobile phones, digital cameras, iPods for storing data. Flash ROM has faster speed of reading data as compared to any other type of ROM. NAND flash, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, MOSFET, which has two gates for amplifying an electric signal. NOR flash, write data or information with the help of tunnel injection. Erase the instruction using tunnel release. Storage system, hard disk, optical disk, and magnetic disk. Compact disk is 700 megabytes. Magnetic storage system, storage devices: magnetic, solid state, optical, magneto-optical. Magnetic, two types: tapes and disk. Optical, read only disk, read once, write many disk. Magnetic storage system, magnetic tapes, magnetic disk, hard disk, floppy disk are examples of magnetic storage system. Magnetic storage system are non-volatile. Data can be accessed randomly as well as sequentially. We can access data sequentially from a magnetic tape and randomly from a magnetic disk. Access time is directly proportional to the searching point. Magnetic tapes, data stored on magnetic tapes can be accessed using the sequential access method, used in cases where a large amount of data needs to be stored but performance is not a major issue. Best switched as backup devices for storing a large amount of data. When a write command is given, a block of data is written on the tape. The next block is then written after a gap called interblock gap. One block may contain one or more records that are again separated by blank spaces known as inter-record gaps. A magnetized portion refers to the binary digit 1, while the non-magnetized portion refers to 0. Data stored in the form of records. Set of different records is known as file. Large storage capacity. Major advantage of magnetic tapes of लार्ज स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी होती है मैग्नेटिक टेप की. मेजर डिसएडवांटेज: लो डाटा ट्रांसमिशन स्पीड ड्यू टू सिक्वेंशियल एक्सेस, नॉट suitable for random access. Updating such as insertion or deletion is difficult. Magnetic disk stored digital information in the form of small and magnetic needles. Magnetic disk can store a large amount of data and is less expensive as compared to RAM. Data access rate is slow compared to the main memory. It allows the random access of data and provides the facility of erasing and recording the data as many times as required. Tracks are concentric circles on the magnetic disk. If thickness between two tracks is less than magnetic disk can store a large amount of data. Data is stored in magnetic disk in the form of tiny dots on the tracks, which are known as spots. Broken up unit on the tracks are known as sectors. The size of sector in a magnetic disk is 512 bytes. Hard disk. Two popular types of magnetic disk: hard disk, floppy disk. Hard disk, also known as fixed disk, can hold a large volume of data and used with large computer. A floppy disk, removable disk with relatively less storage capacity, is commonly used with personal computers. Major advantages of magnetic disks are high storage capacity, easy direct access to data, better data transfer rate as compared to magnetic tapes. Optical storage system. Optical storage systems use the laser light as the optical medium to retrieve as well as record data. Compact disc, read only memory, CD-ROM, digital video disc, DVD, compact disc recordable, CDR, compact disc rewritable, CDWR, digital video disc recordable, DVD-R, digital video disc rewritable, DVD-WR. DVD disc have much higher storage capacity than the CD disc. The optical storage systems are more reliable as compared to magnetic storage systems because they are less prone to mechanical damage. Read-only optical storage devices are CD-ROM and DVD. Writable optical storage devices are CDR, CDRW, and DVD-R. Storage capacity. It is directly proportional to the spot size and geometrical dimension of disk. Data transfer rate. It depends on the linear density and the rotational speed of the drive. Access time. It is directly proportional to the weight of the head and the rotation speed of the disk. Low data access speed as compared to magnetic disk. Read only optical disk accessed randomly 700 MB रेंज होती है. रीड ओनली ऑप्टिकल डिवाइस रैंडमली एक्सेस होता है. राइट वंस रीड मेनी डिस्क वर्म burn the data out onto the warm disk. A CD writer device is required. Magneto-optical devices, systems. Magneto-optical storage system includes the features of the both magnetic and optical disk. Read and write data by making use of laser and optical technologies. Ferromagnetic material enclosed in the plastic coating principle